Hi, this is John Waterhouse. Thank you for checking out this class. This is class 5 in our Keys to Higher Consciousness for Personal Spiritual Growth. We're in Module 2, class 5, and this is our last class. In fact, this is the last class we're going to record until the pandemic situation has settled down. So we're going to do it a little different now because I've already held the class. And what we're going to do is go back through all the information that I shared on Monday night and make it available to anybody else that wants to go through this process with us. So what we're going to do first is have a quick review. As I said, this is class 5. We've had 4 other classes. One was our introductory night, and then we've discussed these topics. And these topics are the ones that I'm about to share with you. So bear with me here. We're going to do a screen share, just like that, and like that. And you should be now seeing the screen that shows spiritual practices in review. The first one we looked at is the main one. It's the crown jewel of Science of Mind. It's called Spiritual Mind Treatment. It is a 5-step affirmative prayer where we seek to, in a very conscious way, accomplish and reveal the things in our lives that are so important. I say it's 5 steps. The 5 steps are the recognition of the presence of the divine, which is more than you might think. It really is a look at kind of wrapping our minds around what God is, how that works. Moving from the idea of a God that is a being to a presence in which the universe functions. That's a whole conversation in itself, as they all are. The second step is to recognize if God is everywhere and always, then God must be at the point of us. And when we recognize that God is who we are able to speak with the authority of the divine. And we move into the third step, which is realizing that what we desire in our lives is already so. And absolutely seeing it as so in every way, and understanding it as so, and moving forward as though it's already so. And by doing so, we impress upon spiritual law that understanding, and spiritual law in kind returns that to us in physical form. And then our final 2 steps are gratitude, which seals the deal on the thing being real, whatever it is that we're treating, and releasing it, knowing that it isn't going to happen in our limited understanding and consciousness, but that the allness of God is what knows best how to reveal that outcome that we desire. That was the first thing we looked at. The next night, we went through 2 of these practices. We began with gratitude, and we explored ways of expressing our gratitude, such as a gratitude journal, or contacting people and telling them how grateful we are, or spending time in the morning or evening doing our gratitude work just in mind, just remembering the truth of who we are and how grateful we are for all the blessings in our lives, or writing letters to people and telling them how grateful we are. And the truth of that is that you don't really even have to mail the letter for it to have the impact in your life that you're looking for. But it's kind of nice for other people to know, especially if that feels right. In that same class, we explored the idea of meditation. And although you could spend weeks talking about meditation, we did a kind of a quick course on what meditation is, what the benefits are, how it works, and then we did a short 10-minute meditation in the class. It was a lovely evening. The next night, we looked at the idea of visioning, which comes to us from the work of Dr. Michael Beckwith. He says that when we ask the right questions and allow ourselves to receive the answers to the questions from within ourselves, that they can look very different than what we thought, or what we expected, or what we ever imagined. And that out of that, we can get some ideas of direction for our lives. We can become more aware of our lives. We can use this truly as a spiritual practice on many levels. And that night, we did a visioning process. We did a collective process. You can do it by yourself. You can do it with a group. We did it with a group. We collected the answers that came forward, and then we kind of analyzed it and looked at it. And that was in our class number 4. Tonight, we're going to be looking, make sure I'm on the right page here. There we go. At self-awareness as a spiritual practice. The idea of how do we get to know who we are better, clearer, more completely. And there's a lot of good research done on the idea of self-awareness. Self-awareness is defined as having conscious knowledge of one's own character, feelings, motives, and desires. When we are aware of who we are able to present that more clearly and more completely to the world and to ourselves. Self-awareness provides clear perception of our personality. It includes our strengths, our weaknesses, our thoughts, our beliefs, our motivation for why we do what we do, and our emotional state. Having a high level of self-awareness is helping in understanding how other people experience us, our attitudes, and our ability to respond to them effectively. And you may think that's not that important, but good communication requires that. So this is a way to actually be able to communicate what's important to us to other people more clearly and effectively. Self-awareness is considered by some to be a pathway to happiness. And that makes a lot of sense to me, that if we are aware of who we are, then we're more content with that. If we think we're something that we're not, we're conflicted, because at a higher level, we know who we are. We know why we're here. Self-awareness is essential to the evolution of human life on planet Earth. And no one has explained this better than the existentialist German philosopher Martin Heidegger. And Heidegger believed that the most important accomplishment of any individual is to live authentically. And one could say that being self-aware is living authentically. So that's what we're going to explore tonight. Excuse me, that's a picture of Dr. Heidegger. He did some amazing work in that area. Self-awareness inventory, that's what we're going to do tonight. We're going to go through a series of exercises. A lot of them are questions, but some of them are simply asking you to do something. You can move through these at your own pace. Because what I'm going to suggest is that as I give you each of these, and they're going to be in 3 different areas, as I give you each exercise, that you pause your recording that you're listening and watching, and think about it. And what you'll have up before you is the screenshot of the exercise that you're working on. And just do it as long as it takes, whether it takes you a minute or it takes you 10 minutes, whatever it takes. Just leave the computer on pause until then, and when you're done, take it off pause, and we'll go to the next one. So I said we have 3 different areas. They're on values and intentions, personality, and relationships. Each one has 8 exercises. So we'll move through these. You will move through these as rapidly as you want to, because you're in charge. Okay, so let's begin. We're working on values and intentions, and your first assignment is to describe your ideal you. Describe who you are at your very best, maybe even in ways that you would like to be beyond what you've done so far. What's ideal for you in this lifetime? What are the qualities, the characteristics, the value that you bring to the world? So pause your recording, ponder that for a time, and write down what it is that speaks to this idea of the ideal you. Wonderful. I hope that was revealing. Let's go to the next one. This is a question. What are the most important outcomes you intend to experience during the remainder of this lifetime? What is it that you want to accomplish or experience in your life between now and the time that you leave this physical plane? And what I'd like you to consider is coming up with 5 answers to this, 5 separate things that you'd like to experience or express in your life while you're here, the most important ones. And give yourself some space between them. Don't write them really tight together. Leave yourself, about an inch on your page between each, because we're going to do some other things with this. So go ahead and pause your computer and sit with this one and see what comes. Great. So you've got 5 areas that you've identified. This is what we're going to ask about them. Why are each of these outcomes important to you? So whatever it is you've written down, give at least a sentence as to why this is important. And go ahead and pause your computer, think about that one, and write down your answers and come back. All right, welcome back. We have one more piece of this little puzzle we're working on right now. Here's the last thing to do. What is keeping you from acquiring or achieving these outcomes? What is it that's keeping you from achieving them? Now, as metaphysicians and students of the science of mind, we know that it's always us that keeps us from accomplishing whatever's going on in our lives. The rest of the world is spending time blaming something outside of themselves. So what I want you to look at is not so much what's the big bad problem out there in the world that keeps you from doing this, but what's going on inside of you that has caused you not to achieve this yet. Now, it may be that in the exercise that you've just done, you've come up with something you've never even thought about before, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong here. This isn't about judgment or fault finding or something bad you've done. It's nothing of the sort. It's simply seeing what the blocks might be, because you have to see the blocks to have them go away. So go ahead and write down something about each of these 5 as far as what it is that might be in your way so that you'll know how to address it. So go ahead and pause your recording and come back to me when you've got that worked out. Great. Okay, now we're going to go in a different direction. This one's is a little complex, but I know you can do it. So right now, what is the most important aspect of your life relating to each of these 5 areas? Your health, your career, your family, your relationships, and your money. So what I would like you to do here is, again, write down these 5 words: health, career, family, relationships, money. And you can put "my" in front of it if that helps you. Leave yourself about an inch and write down what it is that's most important about that right now. You may be facing something that has just come up, and that's the most important thing, or there may be some desire you have to achieve something in this area. That's great. And maybe you have nothing. Maybe you're retired and you really don't have a career. If that's the case, I would ask, rather than career, how would you be in service to the world, to your spiritual community, to your greater community? What is it that's important about that in your life if you're not currently involved in a career? So go ahead and pause your recording and sit with these and write down what's most important. Okay, great. So we're going to stay with this idea, but there's another question to ask. How much time do you dedicate to each of these areas in an average week? So it may be that you're not focused on that at all in your life right now. If that's the case, write 0. And I would put it in parentheses after you've written why it's important. So whatever the number of minutes or hours, I wouldn't put days because we don't do anything for days. How much time are you spending working on your health each week, on your career each week, your family, your relationships, and your money? How much time do you put into these things? So give that a go and see what you come up with. Pause your computer and come back to me when you've got that one figured out. Okay, great. Now we're going to change directions again a little bit, and we're going to go with this question. Based on your life experiences, what recommendations would you make to your children or grandchildren that could make their lives better? So based on your wisdom that you've acquired in your life, what's the best advice, support that you could give to your children or your grandchildren? And if you don't have children or grandchildren, then think of someone or people that are like a generation younger than you. What advice would you give them from your own life experiences? Explore that for a bit. Think about what you would tell these people in your life. And when you've got that worked out, come back. Okay, I hope that was a enjoyable and rich experience for you. The last question in this series is a little different. It's going to take you in a different direction. The question is, how do you feel about dying? And that isn't to be morbid. It's just about, how do you imagine that your life will come to a conclusion, at least this lifetime, not your life because you are eternal, but being in the body you're in, when it ends, what's your thought about that? So pause once again and write for a moment. When you've got that done, we'll move on. Okay, great. So I hope there was something interesting that you discovered in that little exploration. Now we're going to move on to our work around personality. And this is how we're going to begin. We're going to look at personality traits and how we function as a human being on planet Earth. Here's your first one. Describe yourself using only 3 words. Describe yourself using only 3 words. Now, chances are you're not an active member of this center, but if you are and you're taking this class with me online, what I want to invite you to do is remember when Barbara gave you the exercise in the membership class about being who you've come here to be. You may recall that we went through a series of finding people that were heroes in our lives, people we really admired. We wrote down what qualities we admired about those people, and we extrapolated from that list of qualities the 3 most important, and then we claim them for ourselves because we wouldn't admire them in other people if we didn't admire them in ourselves. So find your 3 words. My 3 words are clear, compassionate leader. You find your words and write them down. And when you're finished with that, come back. Great. Okay, here we go to the next one. This is very different. Has your personality changed since you were a child? I would be very surprised if anyone says no, because we mature and that causes our personality to change. But the important question is, if so, how has it changed? So I want you to take, let's have the baseline for this. When I say child, let's say teenager. Since you were a teenager, how has your personality evolved? So pause the recording and sit with this for a little bit and think about how that's happened for you. And then come back. Okay, wonderful. So we're going to move on to the next question, which is your personality more like your mother, your father, neither of them, or a balance, a combination of the 2? This just gives you a moment to see who your greatest influence was in your life, at least from the point of view of your parents. When I think about that, I think I'm a bit more like my dad, but I certainly do have some characteristics that came from my mom. And I'm not suggesting this comes in your DNA. I think it's all learned behavior that we get from the people that raised us when we were so impressionable. But just a quick answer to this one. You may not even need to turn the recording off to answer this one. Okay, great. Let's go on to the next one. What qualities do you most admire in yourself? This one's interesting because most of us don't think about what we're really good at. And this is an opportunity for you not to be boastful, but to be clear about what your greatest gifts are. So what are those qualities that you most admire in yourself? Why don't you come up with at least 3? So work on that, stop the recording, and come back to me when you're complete. Okay, welcome back. Here's the next one for you to look at. What is the greatest strength of your character? Now, you may have included that in the previous question, but think about this one separately. What is the greatest strength of your character? What can people count on you for? What are you rock solid with? Okay, here's the next one. What is your most challenging weakness? And my guess is you're going to want to sit with this one for a little while and turn off or pause your recording. But this isn't for the purpose of finding fault or being vulnerable. When we know what our weaknesses are, we can address them. We can improve on them. If we aren't willing to admit that we have some things that aren't strong within us, that where we're vulnerable or uncertain or unskilled, we can't improve it. So this is an opportunity to look at that. You might also restate this as, what's your Achilles heel? What is the thing that catches you unaware? And this is about making it aware, making you aware of it. So go ahead and pause your recording and think about this for a minute and write something down. Okay, here we go. One more. Well, actually, we've got two more. Here's the next one. What scares you the most in your life? Everybody has something that makes them uneasy, afraid, concerned. Uncertain is my word. What would that be? Again, we're not trying to find fault or put a spotlight on something that's wrong, because it's not wrong to have concerns or fears. But when you're aware of it, you can do something about it. If it sits in the back of your mind, just being that really quiet voice of something's wrong, something's not right, I don't know what to do, whatever it is, it doesn't get healed. So answer the question, and realizing that what you're doing is you're putting this out into the light so that you don't have to be concerned about it, so that you can know that there's an answer and that you have this thing worked out better than you thought. So if you need to, pause your computer and write that down and come back. Okay, and here's our last one under personality. Do you make choices in your life based more on logic or on intuition? Do you use the facts to know what to do? Are you a linear thinker? Do you have to do a pro and con before you move forward with something? That would lean you toward logic. Nothing wrong with logic. Using the facts of our lives will get us to a certain place. And logical people think about what the facts are. Intuition's different. If you're intuitive, what you're doing is you're willing to go out on your feelings of what you think would be best to do. You're willing to take a chance on a hunch. You're willing to know what to do based on some internal criteria that maybe you can't even put words to, but you know that's what you're supposed to do. That's an intuitive. Which are you? Another thing I would say about this is that most of the people that are interested in science of mind would fall into the intuitive camp. We tend to be more abstract. We tend to be able to take concepts that aren't very physical and see them and understand them much better than people who are more logical, which are people called sensates. They use their senses. There's nothing wrong with either one. In fact, there are way more people that are sensates, that use logic in their lives, than there are people that use their intuition. But for some reason, it seems very appropriate in this movement. And one thing that I'll also say about that is intuitives may like their process, as I do. But at the same time, it's really important to have those people that are grounded in logic and fact for us to be able to not go off the cliff without thinking it through. So it takes all of this to make this work. So those are your 8 points under personality. Now we're going to move on to our last section of this, and that is on relationships. So here's your first relationship question. In your opinion, what are the qualities of an ideal intimate relationship? What are the characteristics of a love primary relationship? And I'll throw some out to you. Certainly love is at the top of the list, but so is respect, so is honoring. These are the kinds of things that that most of us would want in our relationship. These are the qualities. So what are the qualities for you? and write as many as you want. The more, the better. And when you've got that done, come back to me. In the meantime, pause your computer and think about this one. What comes? Wonderful. Okay, now we're going to go on to one that is very personal. Understand this is information that I'm not asking you to share with anybody. So it's really for your own use and your own awareness. That's what we're doing here. This is self-awareness. How satisfied are you with your current relationship? Now you could say, I don't have a current relationship, so I'm not satisfied at all. You could say, I don't have a current relationship, and I'm quite satisfied to be living alone and to be with myself, which is great. That's wonderful. There's nothing wrong with that. However, if you want to be in a relationship or if you're in one, kind of assess how it's working. And that level of satisfaction, I want you to know, comes from within you, not from the other person. So look at this and think about what it is that is satisfying and perhaps what isn't in your relationship. This is all for you just simply to be aware of it. So pause your computer, do the work, and come back to me. Wonderful. Okay, let's go on to the next one. Why? Now you may have already written down why. And if you have, we'll just move on. But if you haven't, speak to the idea of what it is that keeps you from being absolutely satisfied in your life with your partner or your desire for a partner. Okay, here we are. We're going to go to the next one. Whom would you call if you had only 1 hour to live? Who would you call? And it's just an hour, so your list can't be too long because nobody's going to let you off the phone after 2 minutes if you call them and tell them this. Who's on your list? Who would you call? Who are the most important people for you to connect to before you leave? Turn off your computer and think about that for a minute. Write it down and come back. Here's the next part of the question. What would you say to them? Perhaps you would say different things to different people. Certainly you would want them to know that you love them. But what goes beyond that? What else is there to say that would be important to you? So go ahead and pause your computer, think about that, write some thoughts down, and come back. Great, welcome back. Here we go on to our next question. For whom in your life have you had the greatest affection? Now, I write it this way, this question this way, because I believe that love is an absolute, that there's always love in our lives. Sometimes we don't recognize it, sometimes we don't act on it, but love is an absolute. Love is the presence of the divine. So it's not about who you love, it's about who you have the greatest affection for. Who have you in your life had the greatest affection for? And I don't do this for you to try to compare one relationship to another, but there was something in that moment, that in that relationship with that person, whether it's ongoing now or it's in the past, that revealed something about you. So go back and think about what it is that made that passion, that connection so powerful for you, and write down some thoughts about that. Who is it, and what are your thoughts about that? And when you get back, and let me go ahead and give you the why on that, go ahead and write the why, and then come back to me. All right, welcome back. Let's take another look at relationships from a different angle. Who is the most impressive person you know? Who are you most impressed with in your life? And I would rather you not go to historical figures or celebrities or anything of that sort, but people in your life, people that you have direct contact with in your life. Who's the most impressive person you know? Okay, now that you have identified who that person is, the question is, what is it about this person that most impresses you? It could be one thing, it could be 10 things, whatever it is. Think about it and write down what you're impressed by from this person. And go ahead and pause your computer and come back to me when you've got that one. Okay, welcome back. Okay, we're going to move on from this one. Here's our next question. What was the most devastating moment you have ever experienced in a relationship? I know that's kind of heavy, but it's important. It's important to remember this. I'll tell you why it's important in just a second. But remember back and try to do it as an observer rather than getting all caught up in it emotionally. Remember who you are, look back, see something that at the moment just really hurt. And write a very brief description of what that is. You know what it is. It doesn't require a lot of description. I'll tell you what mine was. Mine was when my first wife left me. She did it when I was at work. She had a van line come and movers moved everything out of our house. And she packed up herself and my son, and they went to the airport and got on a plane and never came back. That was a tough day. What she left was a sleeper sofa and a box of pictures. That was mine. So the question that goes with this is, how did you handle it? And my answer is not very well in the moment. I was very angry, upset. I didn't quite know what to do. I was lost. And when I kind of began to take some action, what I did was I went through all the pictures, and all the pictures of her I took and I burned out in the driveway. Pretty immature, but it's what I did. It's what I needed to do in that moment. And it's not that I have any regrets about that, but that's what I did. What'd you do in yours? How'd you handle it? So write about that and come back to me. Okay, so we're going to leave that one behind, but let me just speak to that for a moment more. That's an important thing to know. There's nobody that has a life that doesn't have challenges. Sometimes they're very difficult challenges. And when we go through this kind of thing, how do we handle it? And in every case, we do something to handle it. Maybe not all right away, maybe not all at one time, but we do something to handle it. And that's in our nature, to move on from where we were. And my prayer for you, wherever you are in the world, that you've handled whatever that most devastating thing is. If you're in it right now, I invite you to call a practitioner and work with them around that, because you deserve better than that. All right, here we go to the next one. Of all the relationships you've had, what was your best moment with another person? And I know that you probably have had thousands of wonderful moments in relationship. How do you pick what's best? Well, it doesn't really matter what you pick. Just pick something. Pick something that's really important to you. A good memory. I'm sure mine would be the day that Barbara and I got married. That was pretty spectacular. Yeah, good memory. You do yours and come back to me. Okay, now we've come to the very last question I'm going to ask you in this class. Here it is. Who do you treat better, yourself or others? However you answer this question, there's something to be revealed about you. And if your answer is I treat them about the same, that's fine. That could be an answer as well. But if there's any distinction you can see between who you hold higher, yourself or others, that's worth knowing and noting. Fantastic. So that was our journey of our self-awareness inventory. There's one more piece that I want to share with you as we end this, because self-awareness is an important process in everybody's life. It's part of our evolutionary process, and it shouldn't be taken lightly. So any chance we have to increase our self-awareness, I encourage you to take advantage of that. So what I've got for you now is a list of some things that you could bring forward in your mind as intentions to improve and increase your self-awareness. And the first one I've got for you, participating in spiritual community. Well, that's a no-brainer because that's what I do for a living, is work in spiritual community. It's wonderful. It's the place where people reflect who I am. It's people who find the best of themselves. And when you're part of a spiritual community, your life really does get better. There's been great research that says that people who are in a faith community live longer, live healthier, and live happier. So if you're in Asheville and part of this community, I can't wait till you can be back with us. And if you're not, if you're somewhere else in the world, I encourage you, if there is no spiritual community around you, create one. Create a small circle of friends who get together and talk about these things on their heart in a good way and find ways to resolve. Not necessarily that it would be an advice group, but it would be an opportunity just to explore how to make life better. The next one is experiencing spiritual inspiration. You can do that through reading magazines. The Science of Mind magazine is a good example there. Reading endless number of books by authors that offer techniques and ideas and skill sets for improving the quality of life, our quality of life. The other area of this would be music. To listen to inspiring music. Avoid listening to music that's a downer or that's angry. Listen to things that lift you up. And that will only help make your life more pleasant and more fruitful. The next one is memorizing inspiring quotations. There are many quotations that I use all the time, that I think of, that things remind me of. One was just in my mind yesterday, and it was from Ralph Waldo Emerson. It's his quote that says, "Even in the muck and mire of things, something sings." Meaning that God is always present in everything, even the stuff that looks awful. There's 1,000 more of those. Try memorizing just one or two and see if that doesn't give you some uplifting in your spirit as you know those words and can recite them on cue at any moment. The next one is scheduling alone or quiet time. Now we're in the midst of a pandemic and we've been asked to stay home. Now, being at home, if you live alone, you've got lots of alone and quiet time. If you don't live alone, you've got the opportunity maybe to step away from that, going out for a little walk, just being by yourself, just being in nature, if you can pull that off, just knowing who you are in the silence is incredibly gratifying, because it's true that wherever you go, you're there, but you don't always remember you're there. And this is an opportunity to remember how fortunate you are to keep your own company. The next one is creating a forgiveness practice. This is something I learned from Dr. Edwin Gaines, a profoundly powerful teacher who says that forgiveness is not a one-time deal, that there are always little things that we hold on to in our subjective mind, things that we think people did us wrong, something went badly, and we have a tendency to want to blame them for that. And what she does on a regular basis is she scans her memory to find out where something pops, where there's some energy that says that's not okay. And she goes into her forgiveness work. She prays forgiveness. She often even writes letters telling people that she forgives them, and she knows that their intention was to do the best they could. And whether that's a letter that's mailed or not, it's the process of recognizing that holding on to problems, holding on to blame only makes our life more difficult. Doesn't do much to the other person. So give that a go. If you're looking for something to add to your tool chest or toolkit for spiritual practices, this is an excellent one. And then the final one on my list is being in sacred service. This is something we know very well in our community, that the people that get the most from the center are the people that give the most. So find a way, if you don't have a spiritual community, find a way to be in service to your neighbors or to your greater community or to a food kitchen or someplace else where you can touch a life in a good way. It has such a great impact on who we are when we do that work. And that's what I've got for you tonight. These are the lessons that I bring you. Let's take this share off here. And what I'm realizing at this very moment is I did not start this class with a treatment. That breaks every rule I know. So I'm going to have to do a really good treatment to close this. So what I know is that the presence and the power of the divine is right here. It has always been here, whether we knew it or not. The presence of God dwells where we are. And wherever I am and wherever this one who listens to me at this moment is, I know that God is there. That wholeness, that power, that clarity, that peace, that beauty dwells wholly and completely, infinitely at the point of me and at the point of all. So with certainty that that is so, I know that this time spent in class has been of great value. That by going through this inventory, that people have been thoughtful and that have revealed things that are helpful in moving forward in their life. I know that this idea of self-awareness is a powerful tool that we can use to make our lives work even better. So I'm very grateful for this opportunity to share these ideas and to bring forward the very best in every life that is part of this community and in all of life. So the brightness of this day shines forth as us. All is well and all is God. And so it is. Thank you for taking the time to do this. You've made it all the way to the end. So what I want you to know too is that this center is completely supported by the generosity of people who come here and people who watch us online. So if you'd like to support the center, I encourage you to go back to our website, to click the donation button and to send us a gift. And I know that's kind of weird to ask for a gift, but that's how we do it. And that's how we sustain this good work that we bring to the world. We are still touching thousands of lives every month around the world. And we hope that you are finding value in being with us in this way. And if you're in the Western North Carolina area, we know you'll be back with us soon as this pandemic is resolved. If you're somewhere else in the world, we wish you well. We believe in you. We know that the presence of the divine dwells right where you are and that all is well in your world. So blessings to you. Be well and come back and see us again soon. Namaste.